Well, welcome to the class, and today we're using our strap and you're gonna buckle it, okay? Because you're gonna place it behind your back. Behind your back, right on the shoulders, and you lay down on the floor and place both feet in there. We're just gonna start here, opening gently the back body, back of the legs. You just want to rest the shoulders nicely on the floor. And it's not about pulling hard on the legs right now. We just want to just set up comfortably, open up without pulling back of the legs. And then we just want to rest our lower back flat on the ground. So where's the strap? But if it's 10 feet long, you have enough room to set it behind your back and to have your feet in there, and you don't have to hold your legs with much effort. And you can always adjust your strap by pulling on the side. And that's how we start. Just breathing easily into the body, into the belly, and then just giving a moment for the spine to rest. I just want to feel the spine dropping. Now, if you do not have a long strap at home, you can always use your strap, normal strap, and it's just the only thing that you're going to have to hold it with your arms. And it might tense up the shoulders. So what is good here is that you can just rest nice and easy. You can also put your legs at the wall if you don't have any strap at all. And we take a moment to drop the spine, to drop the hips, drop the shoulders. And also it's good to remind ourselves to, before we start anything, to relax also our face. From the forehead down to the cheeks, the jaws, allowing the lower teeth to separate slightly from the upper teeth, giving room for the tongue to rest in the mouth. And then just relaxing also all muscles around the cranium, allowing your eyes to bulge and shrink into its cavities, and allowing your brain to shrink, bulge, because they are moving, they are expanding and shrinking, following their own rhythm. So as you're relaxing the muscle around your cranium, you can allow more movement into the brain and into your eyes, increasing the circulation. So let your breath be, and since we want to emphasize the drop of the hips, and that's going to be our goal today, just paying attention to the placement of our lower back. Then emphasize your exhale as a way to release deeper and help ground the hips more easily to the floor. Now let's just stretch our arms all the way back. You can cross your fingers and stretch them by turning the palms up, and then stretch your arms all the way back. And feel how this simple move can maybe affect a little bit the placement of your lower back. In that case, try to replace it down on the floor. Count another 4 breaths. All right, on your exhale, you can lower your arms down and then bend the knees to replace the feet on the ground. There you go. Okay, and we're gonna now mobilize the lower back. Okay, so put it to the side. We're gonna take the strap again after that, but for now, just rest the hips on the ground, feet and the knees pretty much hip width distance apart. And actually, you can use the block today that you're gonna keep in between the knees. Not that you have to squeeze hard, but just to keep between the knees. And for now, we just want to just mobilize the lower back by rolling the hips forward, and that's going to create a bridge space underneath your lower back and the floor, between the lower back and the floor. And then as you exhale, you just want to roll the hips back and then pull. Hips stay on the ground. We just want to track the pubic bone towards the sternum, engaging at the same time the core, the deep core. So the belly should stay flat as you exhale. So you inhale, roll forward, engage the back muscles. And that's going to lengthen the neck. As you exhale, you flatten the lower back, engaging the deep core muscles. And that's going to gently lift the neck as well. For now, you're just mobilizing the hips. And you just keep on holding the block between your thighs. Because as we mobilize in the hips, if we have some tensions in there, we're going to have a tendency to just separate the legs or to have the legs shifting away from each other. So it's a good reminder, good feedback to have a block in between the thighs so we can remember and make the muscles remind the muscles to stay in that position. We just want to roll the hips, and that's all. Engaging the back, engaging the core. So on your inhale, you curve. On your exhale, you flatten. So when you inhale, your belly is going to expand. So you want to feel the hip bones in the front, ribs separating from each other. And as you exhale, they're moving back towards the navel. Okay, let's repeat that a few more times. So it's a great way to reset the lower back and to wake up the deep core muscles. And that's going to be useful as we're using our body today. And once you got your coordination going, and you feel like, okay, you can feel as you're rolling forward, as you're rolling back on your exhale, then stretch your arms to the side and bend your elbows at 90 degrees and add your arms at the same time. So when you inhale, your arms are going to roll back, your hips forward, and as you exhale, your arms are going to roll forward and hips back. Putting the palms on the ground. As you inhale, bringing the back of the hands to the ground. Okay, so including the shoulders. We're still holding onto the block. And just notice what moment, what angle, maybe the knees have a tendency to lose the block or to not have the same hold. It's important to observe a little bit of compensations we might have. And one more breath. Inhale, you curve. Arms rolling back. Exhale, you flatten. Arms rolling forward. Excellent. You're going to keep that block between the knees and then bring your hands next to your hips. Now on your exhale, continue rolling the hips back, pressing the low back on the ground, and this time we're lifting the tailbone, sacrum, all the way up. So we do this on the exhale. That means that you're not going to go into a back bend in the bridge. We want to instead keep the lower back flat. You're going to feel your glutes engage, even your hamstrings. And on your inhale, you replace it down. One vertebra at a time. You could curve. And as you exhale, flatten. Tailbone first, sacrum, lower back, and belly are flat. All 10 toes pressing down because we're engaging the whole back side of the body. So you might feel the hamstrings engage, the glutes, and then the deep core. So make sure that you're pressing all 10 toes to the ground as you're lifting. 4 more times. Press. And then inhale, relax. So it's a great work for the hamstrings. The more you roll the hips back, the more you're going to feel from your hamstrings. Exhale, lift. So repeat on the exhale. And on your inhale, replace the hips down. 2 more. Exhale. Inhale, replace it down. 1 more time. And this time, I'm just going to stay here for a few breaths. You can still use the deep core. Engage the hips back as you're breathing. You're going to breathe into your diaphragm. And stabilize the hips. Because that too, the breath might actually pull and then destabilize the spine. So here we're trying to keep everything flat and steady. As we're breathing, we take 3 more breaths. One more. And then slowly replace the hips down. All right, you can put the block to the side and hug the knees into your chest. And now we're going to go back onto our strap. So place the strap behind your shoulders, right underneath. We place both legs in there. Maybe you have the possibility to tighten the strap a little bit more, but not too much, because you still want to make sure now that your lower back is flat. And maybe some of you might need actually to just roll the hips back a little bit in order to flatten the lower back on the ground. Some of us might actually need to roll the hips forward a little bit in order to not have the hips lift off the floor. In that case, you might want to also loosen the strap. So let's just try to find the neutral space for the back. Nice and flat. And once we get it, we liberate the left foot, keeping the left knee bent, and then lower the right leg to the right side. The hips should be exactly on the same spot, should not be moving or twisting as the leg is lowering down. Got to keep the hips level, lower back flat as we're lowering the leg down. And we're going to repeat that a few times. Inhale, pull up. Exhale, lower the right leg down to the right. And you stop once you start feeling that the hips are shifting. It's possible to bring the left leg out too. And on your inhale, you bring it back to the center. Exhale. Lower down. Inhale, pull up. Do this 3 more times. Exhale. Inhale, pull up. Exhale. Go as far as you can go without changing the position of your lower back and the hips. Inhale, pull up. And on the last one, you stay there for 5 breaths. So you should definitely feel your deep core being engaged. That's normal. So a longer exhale will help strengthen the deep core. Okay, you can pull the right leg back up and let's repeat the same thing on the left side. So switch, bring the right foot on the ground, right knee bent. And then flatten the low back, hips neutral. On your exhale, lower the left leg out and then the right knee to the right. And making sure that again, you're not dragging anything from the low back. On your inhale, you pull back up. You'll be surprised how different from one hip to the other it can be. Exhale. Inhale. Two more. And if it helps, you can always slide a little bit of your hand underneath your hip to make sure that it's not lifting. It helps for the feedback. One more. And then you stay there for 5. Okay, you can pull both legs back up and then switch again. Place the right foot inside the strap and place the left foot on the ground. Now, again, keeping our hips stabilized, we lower the right leg down and this time we stay there and then extend the left leg on the ground. Making sure that again, the hips are not being dragged or we're losing the stability from the lower back. So we want to press the left leg on the floor. Okay, we can pull it up and then switch. Step the left foot inside the strap, right foot on the ground. Same thing on your exhale, you lower down. And then once you get there, you extend now the right leg. That might not be completely extended because it really depends on how much room you have in the hip flexors. And you gotta always pay attention to what you do with your lower back. If you feel like it's being dragged forward, then you might want to pull the hips back a little bit. And that might prevent the knee from extending it completely, but that's okay. tight, you can pull that leg back up. And then let's just remove the strap. And you might need your blanket for this one. And I say you might need your blanket because if you feel like naturally your low back naturally arches, and it's a little bit difficult to roll the hips back, in that case, put a thin blanket underneath the lower back. Okay, then we bring both knees up and then we extend both legs up. So this time we don't have the strap. And we want to just curve and lift the lower back up, and then on the exhale, you press the lower back against the blanket. The idea is that we want to recruit a little bit more of the deep core. If I do it without the blanket, I would just curve a little bit the lower back, not much, and on the exhale, same thing, just going to flatten the lower back. And maybe eventually I will manage to lift the tailbone and the sacrum off the ground. And then we place it down. That's why the blanket will help, because it gives you a little bit more extra feedback, and it's going to be easier to recruit the muscles than just trying to find the ground and it's not happening. So make sure that your lower back is on the support, not a high support, but something. And on your exhale, you press, flatten the lower back, and then try to lift the tailbone. And maybe today you won't be able to lift the tailbone. That's okay. We want to try to be able to recruit all that beautiful deep core. Inhale, curve just a little bit. Exhale, flatten, pull, and drag the tailbone up and relax. So there's no point trying to jump. Okay, we're not doing this. We want to first find the button that activates the movement. Do about 10. Take the time to breathe. Exhale. Up towards sitting. You can gently press with your hands, that's fine. Now your feet are not moving back, they're moving up towards the ceiling. And imagine that you're sliding against the wall. One vertebra at a time, you press on the ground. Here you're right into a very lower part of your abdomen. So it's not an easy one, because usually that's the part that tends to be a little bit more lazy. Keep your knees together, and that's a great way to reinforce the pelvis floor. And a few more times. Anytime your legs are shaky, tired, you hug them, you relax them a little bit. It's a lot of work for the hip flexors, but it's great for stability though. And try again. On your exhale. So what's important here is to have the coordination. Don't go too fast. Make sure that you do this at the end of your exhale. And then maybe the tailbone is going to start lifting. Just like what we've done with the feet on the ground. That's exactly pretty much the same start of the move. After that, we're using the back body here. But that's pretty much the same beginning. Okay, one more. And then you can hug the knees in. Rock your lower back on the ground. So those are very good exercises for arch lower back or stenosis. Any kind of compressive issue in the lower back. And now get your block again. We stay 1 more minute on the ground. Stretch your arms to the side and then squeeze that block. Now we want to squeeze the block in between our knees. Keep the feet at knees level. And then by squeezing the block on your exhale, same thing. We just try to keep the lower back stable. Even when we're twisting, we want to suck it in and then lower the knees, not to the floor, just above. And on your inhale, you come back. Exhale, squeeze against the block, squeeze the belly button to the spine, and then inhale, come back. And then you twist back and forth. Again, don't go too fast. Got to make sure that you got right coordination around the lower back and the deep core. Doing this to protect the SI joints and the lower back. So basically, when you look at the level of your knees and the block, they should be on that same level the whole time, even when you're twisting. If you start seeing the knees and the block moving and the knees shifting, then you're not engaging and protecting from the deep core. So you got to make sure that both knees stay level with the block the whole time. That's the one way to protect the SI joints. So we're not looking to go deep in the twist. We're looking to find stability as we're twisting. So keep an eye on your knees. Now if you have to put a stick on both knees, and they should be exactly parallel from the block. Or eventually we can try with one leg straight. Top leg straight as you twisting to the opposite side. The rules are the same. So you can extend the left leg as you're rotating down to the right. Extend the right leg as you're rotating down to the left. Now it's possible that you might feel it's too heavy. That's all right. One step at a time, you go back to both knees bent and continue strengthening that zone. Okay, do a few more. And one more on each side. And then you can remove the block and then hug the knees in. Rock your body, lower back on the floor from side to side. And we can roll onto the side and come into our hands and knee position. If your wrists are sensitive today, don't force them to be always flat. You can switch and make some fist. All right, we're just gonna push onto the shoulders to just keep them stable, and then we're only gonna use the lower back. So just rolling the hips back and then forward. So you're gonna be dropping the lower back as you inhale, and as you exhale, you're gonna be rounding from the lower back. And again, it's not the shoulders, you're gonna be curving back and forth. Shoulders gonna be stable right there, on your fist or on your hands flat, and you just want to mobilize the lower back, that's all. Curving, and then rounding. So you round on your exhale because you want to engage the core. So you're gonna bring the core in and up, and on your inhale, just relax and curve the lower back. So even the head should not be moving, otherwise you're gonna be engaging the shoulders. Keep your neck aligned the rest of the spine, and then just engage and have fun with the hips. basically while you're doing this, you're trying to catch all your patterns or your habits that make you engage the shoulders every time you use the hips, or compensate for the lack of movement from the hips with other places in the body. So it's good to learn to dissociate each movement. So we learn to control better the body. And then after doing this, you're going to find a neutral place for the back again. That means that flat. And you can put your hand on your lower back. Are you curving, arching? Are you over-rounding the spine and you feel your vertebrae popping out? Or can you just find a flat ground where it's pretty much level with the sacrum and the rest of the 5 lumbars? Okay? And now the game is to try to keep that flat during our legs movement. So keeping it flat, you extend the left leg back. So that means you're going to have to refrain yourself from going too high, because here you're going to start arching. We just want to extend, maybe lift a little bit the foot up, and then reinforce with the deep core. And we'll hold it there. So you see, I'm not lifting too high. I'm actually engaging more from the heel in order to keep my leg long and decompress from the hip flexors. And that's going to reinforce the deep core. All right, let's switch to the other side. Lower the left knee down and then extend now the right leg. You can always make sure that your lower back is back to neutral spot, and then you extend and maybe try to lift the foot up without changing a thing, not feeling one vertebra dropping. That's why we got to keep control over the deep core, because we want to keep the hips slightly rotated back. So all of this is about tonification of the body. Tonify the body. Okay, let's just lower the knee down. Let's repeat one more time on each side. Again, you can try to make sure that your lower back is flat. Get some feedback with your hand, and then extend the back leg. Engage from the heel. Exhale, release, and then switch one more time. Lower back flat, stable and neutral, extend, and then lift the foot up. Just a few inches off the ground. We don't need to go far. Good, let's take a downward dog. Press onto your hands, lift the hips up, and then come into pigeon toes. You're just gonna rotate your feet towards each other and press the heels down. And exhale, lower the knees back to the ground. Now, same thing, we're just gonna go a little bit further into the work of the hips. Lower back is neutral. We extend the leg back, lift the foot maybe slightly off the ground, but here you can keep it on the ground, and then just slide it to the side. So if you want more challenge, you can try to do it with just a few inches off the floor, not even, and then back and forth. So the big challenge here is just to try to mobilize the leg without disengaging or twisting or shifting the hips all over the place. Same thing, you can use your fist if it's easier on the hands. So we do about, 6, 8 movements, maybe 10. Slide the foot on the floor. Try to stay really, really focused on keeping that whole area absolutely neutral. So you have a really strong workout around the deep core. And the deep core is the good one. It's the one that really helps support the whole spine, support your internal organs, your pelvis floor, works with the diaphragm. So don't hesitate to breathe in, to exhale, and suck it in. You're gonna reinforce it. Okay, a few more. And then you can switch. Try the other side. Shoulders still stable. You might want to find up neutral place for the lower back, and then start by extending the leg back and then slide the foot to the side. And do this on the exhale, and then inhale, we extend back. Now sometimes you feel like some of the hips are tighter. They might want to pull onto the back, or we might lose some strength in the core, and then shift the shoulders. We are definitely a whole unit. That's why tightness in the hips can affect a lot the posture and even the rest of the body. So you might be very surprised to realize that one hip does this exercise okay, when the other hip has a harder time on this exercise, and it transforms the whole lower back unit into a big weak spot. Inhale, we extend. A few more times. Observe your body carefully. Okay, then we can take another downward dog from there. To re-extend, open up the back body. And pigeon toes, because you can feel a lot of work in the hips. All right, let's just walk the feet towards the hands and then stand up for a moment. Stay next to the wall because you're going to basically do balancing poses. And first, we're going to start with the tree pose. So tree pose, just balance onto your left foot. That right foot can stay below the knee, or you can just go higher and go inside the inner thighs. Now the tree pose, because we're opening the knee to be outside, we could also find a nice compensation by arching the back. So even when we stand up, we want to find a neutral place in the lower back. Okay? So as you're standing up here, roll the hips forward and back a few times. And then stop where you're tucking the tailbone under and where you want to feel up the pubic bone lifting and the deep core engage. You might feel like you're completely exaggerating the whole thing, but that's all right. Just stay there, try to find a flat spot, and then step onto your left foot. Try to lift the knee as high as you want it to be for the tree pose. And then try to feel that angle that might affect the lower back. Then you stop behind that, and then you place the foot into the tree pose position, the tree position, keeping the lower back flat. Once you get there, you engage the right heel against the thigh or against the calf. And then once you gain awareness of the lower back, then you can do what you want with your arms. You can stretch them to the outside. You can keep them in front of your heart. You can stretch them all the way up, as long as this does not affect any of your foundations. Okay, and then when you're ready to lower down, knee forward and then step the foot down. So try that twice on each side. If it helps, Zumba. Forward, back, and then with your hands just try to find that place where, okay, you feel like your sacrum is pretty much aligned with all the 5 vertebrae. And then you shift, pull the knee up, making sure that it does not affect the placement of your lower back, either rounding too much or arching. And as you're opening the hip, because you can feel at the beginning of the class, when we stretch the inside of the thigh, this can also pull onto the lower back. So we got to fight that. Lower back long, giving space for the hip to open up. So that could be a complete readjustment on your whole postural habits. So it might take time to just get used to this one. Keep pushing from the bottom leg to lift, decompress from the hip. And that's what we want. We want to find stability around that area. Lower back and core. And then challenge yourself with your arms. Because maybe as you're putting your arms up, they're starting to affect a little bit some more stability of the core. And the same once you feel like you hit your spot, your limit, then you step down. So your next pose is the half moon. You open the legs wide, get your block if you like to practice on the block, and I think that's a good idea to have both blocks even, to put the hands higher. Because if we go too far down and we're not used to control from the core, then we might actually change the placement of the lower back. So make it comfortable enough. Blocks flat. Right foot follows the direction of the blocks, and we're going to place the right hand right here. Now the challenge is, as we're extending the bottom leg, before we even pull the other one up, is to find the place in the lower back where again it is flat, where the sacrum is aligned with the lower back. Deep core engage naturally, and then you can start pulling the left leg to the horizontal level, and then maybe extend and lift the left hip a little higher. So for today, you don't have to extend your left arm all the way up. You can actually keep your hand behind your lower back and then try to have the feedback. Is your lower back arching, or is it in that neutral space? If you have the back of the wall in the studio, I would have rolled the blanket right between your lower back and the wall to make sure that you're pushing against that blanket. Here, it's going to be hard for you to do on your own, but you have your hand. So use your hand to feel. Learn to touch your body to feel where it is in space. So you don't want to go too fast. And again, it's all about one step at a time. Okay, we want to start first, lower back long, deep core engage, already before we shift our weight. And then find our balance. I want to engage the core right away. And then you hold it as long as you want. Just want to keep the breath calm and do with the capabilities of our hips and our strength. And once you're ready to come down, you bend the knee, step the foot down, and then switch to the other side. And again, it's very interesting to feel the difference from one side to the other. And that's why we realize that we're mostly working asymmetrically. And the whole goal is not to get back to perfect symmetry, but to maybe avoid going too far off symmetry. And learn to control. It's really about contrology. Learn to control our body. And not let our waist compensation take over our balance. We have a little bit of time to finish Warrior 3. Not asking you to do a big one, okay, but stay at your wall. I like to use the Warrior 3 at the wall, with the foot at the wall. So let's just get our blocks now that we have been doing half moon. We're going to finish Warrior 3 with one foot at the wall. Got to find the good distance between the wall and our foot that we're going to keep on the ground. So basically, one leg distance away from the wall. Then the blocks are one body away from the foot. We want to put the hands right there and then step the back foot at the wall, okay? We don't want to feel like we're leaning forward. We don't want to feel like we're also leaning back against the wall. Okay, we want to try to feel like the body weight is being held just above the right foot. Or it can take a minute to find the right placement. But the idea is the same, okay? You might start with bending the knee a little bit to give more space for the hips to roll back. And maybe for today, you might not even extend the right knee completely. That's okay. Keep it bent. Find a good place for the lower back. And then, just like what you have been doing on the floor, on hands and knees, try to extend the back leg without changing the composition of your lower back. Here, you're going to do the same thing. You engage the core, lower back flat, and then slowly you extend the back leg. Find the wall. And then maybe with the practice, you manage to extend the front knee completely. Okay. Right here, lower back flat. Same, maybe the left leg might not be completely horizontal. And that's all right. What's important is to not try to open the hips like we've done in half moon. Here we try to keep them flat, like in a hands and knee position, like a tabletop. Stay as long as you're comfortable with your breath. And then you slowly release when you're ready to switch to the other side. You can stand up and take the time to breathe, relax your back before you try it on the other side. Okay. Lower back. Flat, flat, flat. Find the wall. And then stay as long as you're comfortable with your breath. Okay, so after practice this warrior freeze, then let's go back onto your knees and then open them wide to come into a frog. Once we start opening the inner thighs, it's possible that the lower back arches easily. In that case, of course, you can engage the hips back, rolling and trying to extend the lower back and do this back and forth. And then you can use your blocks also to help support at some point the lower back. So you don't have to engage the core anymore as you're stretching. So first, roll the hips back and forth, and that's going to mobilize the hips around the legs, which is good for the hips. And then same idea. You find the flat spot, place the block at the right height so you can rest over the bolster, so you can rest here into a frog. But now you can rest also your core. So always pay attention to your lower back when you stretch your legs. Because you could stretch for years thinking that you're stretching good, but then you don't realize that you're constantly twisting from the hips or from the lower back, and you're actually not stretching the muscle completely. You're always missing that little spot. So just make sure that your hips are aligned with your knees and that your lower back is resting. In this long position. Okay, let's pull the knees back together. Grab your blocks to help you walk on your knees. Not asking you to get up, just to walk back and forth, crossing one in front of the other, crossing the other one in front of the other, just walking like this. We're not lifting up because that too tends to curve and we don't want to get there. Just continue tucking the tailbone as you're crossing the knees back and forth. It's going to be a good release for the hips as we're stretching them. Good. Now we're stretching one leg out. Okay, one leg is straight. We see have our blocks or bolster where we're gonna need, and then you slide the leg out, trying to keep the lower back flat, 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 and until you hit the maximum of your amplitude in the stretch, you place your block or your bolster underneath your belly so you can rest there, rest your lower back, rest your deep core. One leg straight out, slide it, keeping the hips and the knees aligned, and then rest onto your bolster. You can always add some padding underneath the knees if they don't like the stretch too much. Keep emphasizing your exhale. And you're right into the release. And make sure you have the support if you belly to not let your lower back arch. You should feel like your tailbone drops back. Okay, we're going to pull that knee back to the center. All right. Do a few more walks to soften the hips. And once you feel your hips ready for it, you go on the other side. Extend the leg, and again, remember always, pay attention to the hips, knees, they should be on the same exact line. You slide and you find the need to use 1 or 2 blocks. Keep the hand behind your lower back just to make sure the position is right, and then you stay there. Long exhale to emphasize the release. Make sure you have enough support. You want this pose to be comfortable enough to be able to release. Okay, let's just pull that leg back in. Do a few more walks, just a few, to remobilize the hips. It's always important to do that after a long stretch. Okay, then you can finish laying down. Before we get into Savasana, we grab our strap, and this time you don't necessarily need to have it buckled. You could do exactly the same way as what we did at the beginning. But you lay down, place that right foot in there, extend the right leg up, and you hold the strap with both hands. Now we're just gonna make sure the knee is straight, and then we drag the the outside part of the foot, the tiny little toe, towards us to really increase the flexion of the ankle, and then we lean 15 degrees to the left. We want to feel like the stretch moves from the back to the side. And keeping both hips neutral on the ground. Alright, can slowly release and then switch your legs. Place your left leg in there. Make sure that your knee is straight, so don't pull too hard on the strap. Drag the outer part of your foot towards you and then start leaning a few degrees right until you feel the stretch moving to the side of the leg. Alright, then you can relax. Put the strap to the side and then you're ready for Savasana. Just relax your legs, shake them a little bit and let your body rest heavily on the floor. Feeling the whole circulation going through your legs and your hips.